Good evening. I'm Diana Palomar, Vice President of Community Engagement for ABC7 Chicago, and I am thrilled to be sitting in tonight for Darius Hillman. Who knew that a chance encounter at a birthday dinner for a mutual acquaintance would set the foundation for a friendship which continues for nearly 12 years? She has made a career of elevating others through her written words, while forging a name and reputation for herself through the firm she founded nearly 10 years ago. An insightful storyteller, she has more than 200 bylines in publications such as the New York Times, CNN, Food and Wine, and Forbes, to name but a few. A Mexican immigrant, she is bicultural and fluent in Spanish. She recently completed a high-stakes, high-pressure role as Director of Digital Strategy for the Lightfoot Administration and City of Chicago. Her expertise is in content creation, crisis communication, brand reputation, and people management. With a digital-first approach, several of her communication campaigns have gone viral and led to national and international headlines. She has successfully traversed two worlds as a native Mexicana and proud American, both feet and a full life firmly planted in diverse cultures. And like many of us, she has faced numerous challenges, some devastating, yet she has faced them with a deep faith, love for family, and a killer smile that lights up any room she enters. To me, she embodies what I believe is a true Renaissance woman, and she is only getting started. Please join me in welcoming a woman I deeply admire and call my sister, younger obviously, Ximena Beltran Quan Kiu, in the arena.
3, 2, 1.
Here we go!
Ximena, I really appreciate you doing this for me tonight, to join me on my maiden voyage into this unique world of an interview segment on air. I think you're one of the most interesting, inspiring young women that I know. And from the moment I met you, I feel like my life has been just totally changed for the better because of your energy, your spirit, and your really, really, really good heart. That's not something you can say about a lot of different people. But you've had a lot of interesting parts of your life, your career moves, building a business, and there are so many layers to you that's why I wanted you to be here tonight, to help share that, because I'm so proud of you, even though I can't take any credit for you. But I want to introduce you to people who might not know you. So let's get started. So give me
By the way, that's a lie. There is no Ximena without Diana.
Wow.
I am truly the amalgamation of all the women, and especially you. You've been you've opened so many doors for me. You've taught me so much. You've embraced me. Without a strong foundation, you can't build on that. And you are a part of my foundation, and without that, everything crumbles. So that is not true, because and I know you are an inspiration to so many women in Chicago, and you've opened so many doors as a Latina, and we stand on your shoulders. So thank you.
Well, thank you. And you weren't going to do that because now I need Kleenex probably. Thanks a lot. No. But no, I appreciate that. I feel like every encounter you have with people, you walk away and it should be something very positive. And every encounter that I've had with you and people who know you and around you, that's what they bring from that. So thank you for saying that. But it's really been an experience of love, just knowing you every second, truly. So, but now I want to introduce you to people. So, give me the 3-minute summary of Ximena. Who you were, where were you born? Who was little Ximena?
Something you said in the intro was that a chance encounter. I don't believe in chances or coincidences. I think we are meant to meet, our paths cross for a reason and a purpose, and so that begins to define who I am. I don't think there's anything accidental about where you are. It's actually a miracle that we found each other in this timeline and that we're sharing space. And so even right before, I saw an interview with Maya Angelou where she talks about how she's so present and she tries to be present. And what has shaped so much of my outlook in life is this idea that everything that you fear being lost, being gone, has already in many ways come to fruition. The only guarantee in life is that you will die, truly.
Yeah.
And I think
true.
once you accept death and being Mexican, it's such a part of our culture. But once you accept that the thing you already have and you've already lost, the thing that you love and fear the most, there's this liberation that comes from it. So I was born in Mexico City. I came on a plane when I was just before my second birthday with my mom and my sister. My mom was 30 years old with a toddler in one hand and a baby in the other. And she was part of a recruitment process as a journalist. She was brought in for her professional degree. We settled in Cicero in the suburbs, and that really just kind of began this entire journey of me finding myself. Like, who I am has changed over the years. If you had asked me when I was a little kid that my world was so much smaller, so I might have said, even saying Mexican, my mom is half Chinese, so I embrace my Chinese side. I was raised by an Italian stepfather. When I was a kid, I grew up with a lot of black and brown kids, but then when I went to high school, I was in a predominantly white environment. But through that whole process, that whole journey, though I didn't feel on the outside, I knew I was different, and I knew there weren't people like me, because beginning again with the fact that I was born in Mexico City, I was Mexican and Chinese, there weren't people like me. I didn't fit in anywhere. And so I didn't want to fit in. I actually thought it was really great being weird and different and strange. And I took so much pride in it, because why would I want to be like anybody else? But
that's not usual, because I think as a kid, you kind of want to fit in. I mean, I grew up in an environment where nobody really looked like me, and I didn't want to stick out, right? All those little things, the food you eat, what your language you speak, how your house is decorated, all those things kind of make you stick out, right? So I find that very cool about you, that you, even as a young girl, like, I don't care. I like it.
Well, and we're shaped by our experiences. So I spoke about my sister. She is 3 years older than me, and she was someone who, she was 5 when we came. She didn't speak English. She spoke Spanish. She remembered what it was like to have grandparents, aunts and uncles, cousins, to be apapachada, which means spoiled, loved.
Yeah.
And I didn't. I grew up here and didn't know anything different than my parents were split up. I never grew up with my father. And so having seen my sister, she reacted to this new world around her in a much different way, where she was put in remedial classes because she didn't speak English. She wasn't slow, she just didn't speak English.
Yeah.
And it wasn't the environment that it is today, where it's so different. I mean, you have artists like Bad Bunny breaking all these cultural norms.
I know, right?
I didn't think I would, that wasn't my experience growing up. Like, Spanish was not this source of strength. It was really something that people poo-pooed, but luckily I had a mother who had so much love for her culture that she was like, when you're at home, you're gonna speak Spanish. Outside is the US, but here it's Mexico. You're gonna speak Spanish. And you're gonna learn. And I think that shaped so much of how I saw myself, because my sister, in many ways, internalized that shame or was embarrassed. And it wasn't her, it was people that made her feel that way.
Your environment. Right.
And I saw that, and I was like, no, even if I did feel that shame or embarrassment, I was like, never let them see you sweat. That is not you are not going to catch me feeling sorry. You're not going to make me feel bad without my permission. And I was so sure of that. And my mom also raised me to, you basically teach people how to treat you, and you teach them how to treat the people around you. So for me, my mom has a very heavy accent. If I was going to act embarrassed, that signaled to people around me that they should feel embarrassed, or they should treat my mom some other way.
Right.
My mom is like the most incredible person.
I know, I've had the pleasure to know her. Yes, I love her. Yeah, I get it. I get it.
And like, listen, it's not where you come from, or it's where you start, it's where you're going. And my mom came from a very low income family, and she was like, I'm rich up here. Yeah. I'm rich. And no one is going to treat you differently. You're not going to feel sorry for yourself. And that's also tough. Sometimes you want to come home and cry, and like someone's treating you bad. And my mom was like, no, you're not any different from these kids. And she's right. In my journey and my growth, something that I've really struggled with is and not struggled, but embrace, is the fact that there was a period of time where I sought acceptance from people who were mediocre to me at best. People whose acceptance I saw that, like, it's people like ants, and I am an eagle, and I am meant to fly, and here I am worried about that, and I don't worry about that anymore.
Yeah. Well, touching on your mom, you never missed a chance, especially on social, to give all props to your mom for the love and support that she's shown you, and just really kind of, maybe not idolizing her, but certainly putting her on a platform. Why is it so important for you to do that? Because I know it comes from a place of, it's genuine, and you really feel that way about her. What is it about that? Why do you make sure that people around you know that?
Oh, being an immigrant, and I've seen it in I'm a Mexican immigrant, but I've seen a story retold where you have immigrants who have to start all over. They leave their country, their language, their education, their friends, their family behind.
Yeah.
And who knows what kind of life they could have had or what could have been if they were in a different place. And so something that really irked me as I got older is like the treatment around immigrants and the people who come here. One, are because there's no opportunities that exist. Two, the people who stay in Mexico, they're rich. They're shishi. Like there's a reason they're there and they're not here. But my mom is this person who has just really defied the odds, truly. A year ago, I told her, you should look around and realize the quantum leaps you have made for me and my sister, because I look, and what I mean by that is like, again, you hinted in your intro, I've gone through a divorce. I went through a near fatal car accident. When I was going through my divorce, when I left my job, and it was because of my mother, who was like, what do you fear to lose? You came here with nothing, you have nothing left. You have nothing to lose.
That's a good point.
And I think that reminder where I have really experienced it where I have been close to death, but really that reminder of like, what do you have to fear? A job, like you can't buy more clothes, you can't buy name brand clothes. Those aren't real fears. There's people, and that isn't to minimize what people experience and go through, but I think drawing from that strength of, I come from this woman who is just like, she's very private. That's why her story is hers to tell. But she has defied the odds. And so in my mind, I'm like, I'm not starting from zero. Not only has she helped me level up she got me my U.S. citizenship, paid for me to go to college so I could do my master's, do unpaid internships, which I am not for, but I appreciate what they did for me. And she just keeps giving, and so she's this journalist, and I grew up with her going to the White House to interview Bill Clinton. I grew up with her, this is like the 90s, so interviewing Smash Mouth and Meredith Brooks, and I was like, that's my mom. But as I became a teenager and you get distracted, I had friends who they were more interested in doing party stuff, and my mom had to take a closer eye on me. And so she forewent her career to make sure that I had the stability, the guardrails. And while I appreciate it, I also recognize like that's something really scary about motherhood, where you can love someone so much that you give all of yourself to that. And that's like, whew.
So would you say that, I mean, I guess I didn't realize the journalistic part of your mom. Is that why you do what you do now? I mean, is that where you get this creativity, this ability to write? Because you are a fabulous writer. I've read most of your things, and you blow me away with it.
It has to be, right? Like I tell my mom, she's the first person to be like, do what you want to do. Don't live your life for me. But in many ways, it's like, I don't really have ambitions. And I know it's so funny where people are like, you've done this and that and that. It's because I have this gift of life that I'm like, I can't waste it. There's people who truly are doing everything, and they get sick suddenly or something happens and they can't do these things that they're really great at. And meanwhile here, I'm fine sitting on the couch, sleeping, just hanging out with my dog. But I have the time, and why not do it? Why not prove that I can go further than I was meant to? I mean, again, like I have defined the odds. I was raised by a single mother. I could have, in a low-income neighborhood, I could have ended up on drugs, an unwanted pregnancy, major setbacks. Even again, the car accident that I mentioned is something where I could have just fallen into a deep depression. But that strength of my mom, and she is such an incredible storyteller. So I think, like, what kind of life could she have had if she spoke English? Like, this woman is so smart, and again, put us through college she never made more than $35,000 a year.
That's amazing, right?
And only once. So to me, she's just like, literally any excuse I could throw at her, she won't take it.
So no wonder you always are so just effusive about your love for her and respect for her, because you want people to know that she's the reason, in due part, that you are who you are, I'm guessing, right?
Absolutely.
And, yeah.
She's my mom, but she's really Elizabeth Quan Kiu Vasquez first.
Yeah, she's a badass. I'm not gonna lie. She's got a lot of spunk to her. I do appreciate that about her. So you identify as an immigrant, Mexican and Chinese, Asian, Latino. I don't think many people think about that particular biculturalism. So in fact, you were the subject of a feature on being Asian Latino. How did or has being part of two seemingly different cultures, how does that inform your growth? Or how is that kind of seeped into the kind of life you have right now?
It's an ongoing journey. I just finished reading a year ago Malcolm X's autobiography, and he talks about the difference between ignorance and racism. So much of what I experienced at a young age, and I'm so glad that I didn't understand it then, was ignorance. It wasn't racism. It's, I got called, like, people would ask me if I'm doing Kung Fu, which, by the way, I did take up Kung Fu.
I know you did.
I love it.
And yes, I remember that.
I love it.
Yeah.
They would be like, oh, Mexichank, like, excuse
that's a
me,
new one.
What are you even saying? And again, I think it just goes back to this being like such a magical part of me. I am not, and I would even say I'm part of so many more worlds, because now even part of my journey is like understanding that I'm truly Native American. My mom is completely indigenous to the Americas. My father isn't. He has more of a Spanish bloodline. There's an incredible piece of art in Albuquerque called Mundos de Mestizaje. It's the largest fresco in North America.
Oh, I read that, yes.
Painted by, it's like a grand protege of Diego Rivera. And it took 10 years to create, took 7 scholars to advise on. It's on a concave ceiling. And it illustrates history as not a linear path. So you'll see like the Arabian Sea against Spanish colonizers with Aztec warriors. And it's so mixed, and I think if you really begin to understand your roots and where you come from, you realize like these ideas of who we are, this identity, they serve a purpose, but do they serve our purpose?
Yeah. And
how it defines you. And for me, it's not. I think growing up, there was a saying about Mexicans, like you're neither from here, ni de ahí o de allá.
Yeah.
Like neither
Yes,
here,
that, yes.
neither from here or there. I used to ride with that, and then I realized like that isn't me. That's almost a victim mentality, and I just saw Becky G did an interview where she's like, I'm 200%. You're from Mexican culture, and you're American culture. That isn't that you're not from these. You're not from either. You're from both. You are more than what is being put on. You can navigate these two worlds. And
200%. Okay.
If I didn't have like that look on life where I'm constantly exploring and trying to understand who I am, I wouldn't be meeting people where they are. I would expect them to come to me, and that's such a disservice to the world and what you're doing. Like, it doesn't make sense to me.
200%. Okay, I'm gonna remember that one, because that's a good line. That's a good line. I want to circle back really quickly on the article, The Beautiful Complexity of Being Asian Latino. You're quoted as saying, never shrink yourself to be more digestible. Let them choke. So that seems to convey a certain amount of self-realization and embracing a power of sorts. So are these words behind the beliefs that guide you in your life today? Because that's a very strong statement. When I read it, I'm like, Ximena said that?
I did, and I meant it, every single word.
Let him joke. Okay, please explain.
Let's start with my name. It's spelled Ximena. There's people, when I was a kid, I was actually in 3rd grade. My middle name is Natalia. And I was like, call me Natalie. And I came home and I told my mom, I'm like, call me Natalie. My mom like laughed at me.
I bet.
So again, like at home, I get it there first. So you can't hurt my feelings. I'm raised by an immigrant Mexican Chinese mother. Natalie's not even my middle name. Again, it's Natalia. And it just became something where like, I used to go by Ximena. That was the American version. And I had someone who was like, it's Ximena. And I'm like, yeah, it's Ximena. My name is Ximena. It should be difficult for you to say, and it is not up to me for me to bend to you. You should meet me where I am. I very recently, only 6 months ago, had someone who was like, your name is very long. You should shorten it and just do...
Don't you love that?
And I was just
this is what you should do.
Yeah. And
this
I
is
was
what you
like,
should do.
no, you should learn to speak another language, and you should broaden your horizon. So, no, I 100% still rock with that, where I will not shrink myself. They should choke.
Okay.
And I'll say it with a smile on my face.
No, I do. And see, that's very disarming, right? Because you can say those things, and then you smile because you're like, yeah, because, hey.
Or you can remain ignorant. That's the other option.
Yeah. Well, I imagine growing up with a name like that had to be super difficult. I mean, my name is relatively easy, and people still butcher Diana. I mean, how hard could that possibly be?
Diana, and it's such a beautiful name.
Just don't give me the E at the end. But anyway, so I want to touch on your career while we have a few more minutes left. You've been in the business for over a third of your life.
Oh, God.
In business. That's pretty impressive. It says a lot about the person that you are, and you've written dozens of articles that have been featured in countless publications. What about writing stirs your soul? Because you're doing a lot of it, and on so many different topics that are, it's very insightful what you write, and it's very contemporary because it's about what's going on right now.
It goes back to this identity piece. For me, Ta-Nehisi Coates is Between the World and Me. He talks about how he felt like, and I should say this, like, let me shout out Black people and Black culture, because so much, there is anti-Blackness in the Latino community. And there's what I have identified in trends and trend watching is Black people, Black women in specific, lead culture. Everything filters down from that. And that's so important that we take opportunities to shine a light on that, especially when you're in a Latino culture.
Yeah.
And to me, those are like my mentors, the books that I read. There's no better advice in those books. He talked about how being Black, he felt like he had to have the answers for everything. And writing, journalism, allowed him the excuse to ask questions, to further explore his identity. And when I read that, that was like an unlock, an aha moment, where I felt that same way too. I was one of the only Mexican kids in my group of friends, and they would ask me all these questions, and I didn't know the answers. But if I could write about it, I could ask those questions under the guise that I was investigating, exploring, but I was really teaching myself. And from there, it became really apparent how there are not people who leave their communities. They stay with people that feel safe, that are like them.
Right.
And so a lot of the stories I tell are in mainstream publication. They're not Univision, they're not specific to Latinos. I'm writing for a mainstream audience because we are a mainstream audience.
Yeah.
You know,
we're part of the audience. Yeah.
I do not use the word minority because that's not what we are. That is, and words matter. And so when it comes to writing, I really fought to have some of these stories told that were not seen as mainstream, that were Black and brown centric, and that's where the storytelling comes from.
Well, I got to say, thank you, Ximena, for letting me share our special friendship. It means a lot. And your inspirational story. I mean, I know we could just keep going on and on about this. But we'll be right back with our final segment, 3 for the Road.
What's up, Chicago? I'm your host, Darius Caffey, and welcome to The Table on Air.
One time I just felt like I had to keep everything in, but now I know I can lean on my friends. This is what friends are for. A lot of my friends are like chosen family at this point. You guys are my family, and if it feels good to have those people in your life.
Check us out next week with a very special guest who comes from the mental health field, but also is joining us as an entrepreneur. You're not going to want to miss this one.
So 3 for the road. I got some questions for you. 1, if you could have dinner with any person, living or dead, who would you choose and why?
Someone from my bloodline, because I want to know where I come from and the strength that flows through my veins. And I don't know who that is because I don't know. But to me, that's the most important piece of like knowing where you come from. It's such a, if you think about it, you're descended from so much survival, fight.
Isn't that something how it'd be great to know who those people are?
Yeah.
And sit down and speak with them and say, okay, so tell me, how did you get here? Yeah. What's that about? Okay.
But only like the baddest of my ancestors, not
Like
anybody
the ass
basic.
kickers? Yeah.
Nobody basic.
Yeah. Do you have any regrets?
No, because they brought me here. Every action brought me here. It's, again, there's no coincidences. We are the manifestation of the people we surround ourselves, the things we listen to, the things that we do. And you always have a choice. So I made those choices. I would make them again.
Good girl. That's a good answer because you can't. Regrets, nobody has time for that.
No.
Wasted energy. Okay, one piece of advice that present-day Ximena would give to her 21-year-old self, even though it was not that long ago, but you've lived a lot of life in this last 10 plus years. So.
I started therapy when I was like 34. Maybe start therapy sooner. But really it's, don't give away your power. Sometimes we're afraid of it. We think it's going to benefit other people, but it's ours for a reason. God gave us that gift for a reason. And the sooner you learn to love it, embrace it, I mean, just magic. Anything is possible.
Girl, I could be here with you all day. I tell you, that's why, thank you for being here tonight. I just, thank you for joining me in the arena. Darius Hillman, thank you for letting me have your chair. It's been a pleasure. And again, we could go on with this, but I feel like you have given enough of yourself at this table, and I appreciate it. So let me leave you with a final thought. It's actually courtesy of singer-actor Selena Gomez. And it actually surprised me when I read it because I thought, oh, that's interesting. Kind of like the quote that I talked about earlier. If you are able to look yourself in the mirror every day with the decisions that you make, that's where power starts. And that really spoke to me and kind of speaks to what we were talking about tonight. So we're grateful that you tuned in. Be well and good night.